We're here in east central Minnesota by Taylor's Falls, and it's been snowing for a few days now. The woods are looking real beautiful, so I figured it was the perfect day to take a little ski trip because, I didn't want to be cooped up inside all day. So I'm going to bring y'all with, and we'll head out in the woods, probably sit down, make some coffee, something like that, and just enjoy the scenery. So I'm looking forward to it. So as you guys can see, it's real snowy out here. The forest is just packed with this kind of like wet cement snow. The last couple of days it's been drying out, but yeah, it's beautiful for being out in the woods. Now, this is always one of my favorite places to go in the winter here, or at least when it's snowed a whole bunch. See if my camera will cooperate or not, but yeah, as you guys can see, all the trees are weighted down. Usually coming through here, this is all these trees are up in the air and you can see straight through here. So all this stuff's weighted down a ton. I'm probably gonna get a bunch of snow dropped on myself here on my camera eventually. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Kind of skiing down into this little ravine here. There's a ravine on either side. You're looking down into one side of it. And we'll be on this little peninsula here. I got my poles in my hand. Hopefully I can make this turn without losing it. Getting the camera full of snow. See, I'm looking down into a ravine there, but this is what I like to call Machinery Hill. And there's almost so much snow that you can't see everything. But there's all this old farm equipment that's been back here. I think the farm was settled in this area, this particular one, in the 1860s. This was the first farm in the area because of the ground. It's where they could put a well in. But then back on this little point, it's all this farm equipment. Some of the stuff's well over 100 years old. But it's pretty neat, especially this time of year. And a lot of it might be kind of hard to see here, but there's trees growing up through all of it. There's a lot of wheels and stuff that are probably covered up with snow now that have, the trees are like coming out of them and stuff like that. So it's kind of a unique little landscape that you don't see everywhere. And yeah, this stuff been sitting here for well over 100 years, some of it. See if we get some close-ups of anything particularly cool. Oh yeah, like this here. I don't know if you can see it, but that tree's growing all around the wheel spokes. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that. Here's some more. Yeah, it's just kind of neat neat stuff to see. Yeah, the trees just growing up through all this old junk. Could probably make some pretty cool sculptures or something out of it, but at this point it's archaeology, so I'm gonna leave it alone. Oh, there it was. Oh. And I'm covered in snow now. Dang. Oh. Just for you guys, we got our first fall. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to cut the video for a second while I get all this snow out of my clothes. All right, well, I was gonna ski around a little bit more and take you guys on a tour of the whole woods here, but it's starting to get kind of late, and I thought, well, you know, I've made a million cups of coffee in the woods, but I've never made one on Machinery Hill here, so it just seemed like a nice spot with a little bit of character to stop. So yeah, we got again, some more old farm junk here, all old cool stuff, and well, what we're gonna do is get these skis off first of all. Got her packed down here a little bit. I try to keep the when I take them off, the skis, I like to set them up and get the snow off of them so the snow doesn't kind of get cemented to it. Those ones aren't wax, they're no wax skis. I don't know, I don't really use wax skis. I mean, I have some, but it's just a lot more convenient with these. But yeah, I just try to keep them up so ice and stuff doesn't start forming on the bottom, because then you gotta scrape that off. Well, it turns into kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, when you're camping out in the woods like this, we're not camping out, we're just hanging out for the day. I like to get the snow stomped down a little bit. And it's kind of nice being under all these trees that there's probably only, I don't know, 8 inches of snow maybe here, max. So it's not too bad. Some of the spots out further were pretty deep. I got my Frost River Isle Royal Bushcraft pack here, and I've had this thing for years. I've used a lot of long canoe trips and stuff like that. It's not a framed pack, you know, so it's not great if you're humping it for a long time. But you know, it's good for this. It's got a lot of volume, so I can store plenty of stuff. And one of the things I like to do is, well, you pack some mittens and a warmer hat. This stocking cap's enough for the weather here, but when I stop, I always put my break on my mittens and put those on. These ones are actually big enough that I can wear my buckskin gloves. I got just some regular hardware store leather gloves with a liner on under them. I just buy the unlined gloves and then get a liner glove for them. Kind of buy a new set every fall. But you get some big choppers like these. These are Black Diamonds. Black Diamond, in my opinion, makes the best mittens and gloves in the world. But you get real big ones, and then you can wear your undergloves under them, right? So if it's cold out, or if I'm just sitting, I got all this insulation, but I need to do something with my hands. Boom, you pull the chopper off, you do your thing for 2 seconds, put the mitten back on, then your hands don't freeze up. And you always have the lanyards on them. So that way you don't got to worry about losing them or it's dumping snow on me now. But yeah, that's the setup. You get some leather work gloves and a little thin liner glove on under them, and then some nice, real nice choppers that fit over them. And you'll never be cold. And if you stop in a spot like this, your backpack will immediately get full of snow if you don't keep it closed. So open it and close it. Ugh, dang. Got my nice Mad Bomber hat in case I start getting cold out here, but I pretty much always pack extra warm layers for when I stop. But this isn't going to be super bushcrafty today. It's more for comfort than anything. Plus, I got all this nice junk. I like to use it sometimes. Got this Big Agnes table. I used to kind of be opposed to all this crap. All this like super Gucci camping gear. I never had any of it. Made fun of everyone that had it. Then I used it a little bit here, a little bit there, and I decided, you know what? This stuff's pretty nice. And are you gonna bring this table with you everywhere you go? No, probably not. At least I'm not. But, you know, for car camping, canoe camping, stuff like that. I've actually been using it a lot. Ice fishing in the pop-ups, because you set up one of those pop-up ice shelters and the snow melts and then you're sitting in 2 inches of water the whole day. Well, it's nice to just be able to throw a table down, especially when it packs up the size of a coffee thermos. It only weighs a couple of pounds. I mean, it's hard to beat. Then here's my favorite piece of accoutrement, which is my Big Agnes chair. Honestly, this thing, one of my favorite things I've ever got. I use it all the time, and it holds up pretty good. You know, you could do you could be real hardcore, and I could come out here with a piece of foam sleeping pad, you know, and sit on that. Or when I was a kid, I'd just bring a plastic bag, even just like a Walmart, like, you know, little bag that you get at the checkout. You can even sit on those. I'd just sit on those, or just try to get a heavy duty one from a checkout somewhere. And I'd go to Walmart and you get some in the arts and crafts section. There's some foam. It's like 1/8 of an inch thick, separate colors of stuff. Super cheap. I'd get a couple of those and I'd put them inside of just a plastic bag, the bag that I could get when I checked out with the 2 pieces of foam. And for about $2, you got yourself a nice pad. And I wouldn't really sit on the ground with it. You know, you try to find a fallen down log or something. But the chair is the way to go. Gotta get my vents closed up so it's starting to cool off. Jacket's a little tight. I made this one myself, actually. It's the first prototype. Still working out the sizing and everything, but it's pretty good. I can't complain. But yeah, let's see what we got here. The old Stanley coffee maker. That thing's pretty slick. Some treats for later. The old liquor fish. Never leave home without it. Gasoline. And my trusty rusty broken Stanley coffee cup. Then in my pack I got a warm jacket, wool coat. That I can pull on if I start getting too chilled. Usually I like to pack a down or well, generally synthetic but just a real lofty. I guess I bring my down parka a lot too. I like to, you know, something with about an inch of loft at least that packs down relatively small. I'll just throw that in my pack whenever I'm out moving around. And then, well, when you get where you're going, you stop and put it on, and you'll stay toasty warm that way, and then just take it off immediately right before you start moving again. With your layers, you know, and you're layering up and down, it's not about putting on 1,000 actual layers. Like, you don't necessarily need that much stuff. You kind of got to plan for two things. One when you're moving, and one when you're not. So, this is actually a new stove. The MSR XGK, something like that. I don't know. Their Expedition, like their winter Expedition snow melt stove. I've been getting kind of frustrated with some of my other stoves, and the cartridge ones, canister ones, whatever, the butane stoves, they don't work in the cold like this. And my other stove, MSR Dragonfly, has been on the fritz, so I finally got fed up and ordered this. So I've ran it a couple times, but I haven't put her to the test yet. But what I like to do with these things, when you get a new stove, these MSR ones, take the pump apart, take all the pieces out like you're servicing it, and make sure that there's no crud in there. Sometimes there'll be little pieces of brass from manufacturing. Just clean all that stuff out, oil up all the seals before you use it, before you start pumping it. Because the last thing you want to happen is for your nice new stove to get broken because you pumped a piece of crap from manufacturing through the pump, you know. But that's all done on this one. Now what we're gonna do is just grab a little bit of snow here. Ooh, yeah. That good snow, nice fresh snow. I want to pack it down with my glove, but I'm kind of I'm concerned about what's on these gloves. Okay, we'll go with that. One pot of snow for now. This is the MSR titanium set. I've had this for probably 9 years or something. It's a unit. It works good. Nice lightweight. They hold up. Now we're going to put them to the test melting snow on this new stove. So these things, if you've never used these MSR stoves before, you pump them up like you saw me doing there. You hook them up, and this gets a little sketchy. But you crack the valve open, okay, I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but you crack the valve open and it squirts a little bit of gas out. And I'm trying to not melt a hole in my favorite table here. I think we're good to go. Put this down just to be safe. Now, if I was smart, I would have brought they come with a foil base that you put them on, and then a foil wind deflector that you wrap around them, which is really what I need so I don't melt a hole in my table. But I was not smart enough to pack those. But yeah, what you do, like you saw me do there, is you just crack the valve open and it squirts a little bit of liquid fuel out. And then you light that, and that preheats the stove. So you can see that thing's running. There's a little right here tube, a little brass fuel line that goes over the top of the burner. And the liquid fuel goes through that, and the heat from the burner boils it. So when you preheat the stove, you're just converting that liquid fuel, you're boiling it, you're preheating it, so that way it'll turn into gas, vapor, before it comes out of the jet. It's a pretty simple system. It's just at the end of the, you can hear that little, see it flaring up and it sounds like bacon. There you go. That's the gas in the tube is boiling. And now it's preheated. So the valve's not open, but the stove's going just because of that little bit of residual pressure in there. So now we're just going to open her up. And I might have to move this to the ground so I don't melt my table. But I'll throw the pot of snow on her here. And sorry, this thing's kind of loud. It's like a little jet engine. So the noise from the stove is probably screwing up the video for you guys, but you can see now she's really going. It's like a blue flame, a little bit of orange. The stove's all heated up orange and everything. So now it's fully warm. And I'm just gonna let her run for a minute and then we'll cut back. Okay, so now through the miracles of television, I got a guy from TV out here. Just kidding, that's me. We got a pot of fresh boiled snow. Had to make some water there and decided to break out my hat, my Mad Bomber, and then my jacket here. The old Filson Double Mackinac Cruiser. It's probably my favorite jacket, my favorite coat. It's my favorite coat for sure. I wear it all the time. Pretty much every day. It's nice to have out here, you know, because it's starting to get a little chillier. It's not as warm as it was, but it's not cold. And I mean, anybody that's been where it's cold will know, like, well, it is still kind of snowing, so it can't be that cold. But this jacket's nice for that. You know, it's not like a down parka or nothing, but kind of above zero, especially if it's like damp outside. Can't beat it. So now, we're gonna risk it for the biscuit here. Get some coffee going. This is gonna be like the world's strongest cup of coffee. Steady. My table's, I didn't get the table quite level, so it's a little precarious. But yeah, while we were waiting, I went fishing, broke into the old liquor fish here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera or not, but I feel like, you know, every man's got to bring a flask into the woods, especially a night like this. You're gonna have to drink yourself warm. I don't know how you could leave home without it, especially for on an adventure. You know, every now and then you just need a little pick-me-up. And some stuff, man, some stuff really warms your soul. Like this, I gotta pack her down in the snow here to keep it cold. Don't let me forget that later. But yeah, I got a drink of my own creation in there. Call it a Jack Pine Savage. And it is 50-50 LaRue's Blackberry Brandy and Yukon Jack. You mix them 50-50, and then here's the thing with either of those two liquors actually, but when you combine them especially, you got to drink them cold. Like put them in a snowbank. Like if they're not at least snow temperature, they don't taste good. The colder the better. But yeah, mix yourself up a Jack Pine Savage, 50-50 LaRue's Blackberry Brandy and Yukon Jack. Throw it on ice for a while, and it'll warm your soul up, I tell you. You get a little sip of that, and your whole body's feeling better. Now, you know, disclaimer. Drinking dilates your blood vessels. So if you are absolutely freezing to death, If you're super cold, don't drink anything because it'll actually make you freeze faster. It'll make you feel warmer because your body's opening up all the blood vessels and intentionally shut down to keep your core warm. So drinking can be dangerous if you're in a extreme cold situation, or if it's like wet cold, you know. But if you're not in danger, well, then there's no danger to it, right? A little more water here. I like this Stanley little drip pot. It's filterless. It's just got a little mesh screen in it. And I found myself using it a lot if I'm not in a place where I, have a coffee maker, right? This is nice. I can whip up a cup of coffee easy. I've probably used it, I don't know, 150 times, I'd say, at least. And it's nice to have around. And stuff like this, too. I drink so much instant coffee. Usually when I'm camping and stuff, it's all just like instant coffee. You know, I drink a million cups of instant coffee, but it's kind of nice to have some real brewed coffee, because there is a difference, even if you get the good instant coffee. And this, you can kind of, depending on how fast, the water flows through it more quickly at first through this coffee maker, this drip pot here. But then it kind of stagnates at the end. Maybe that's an unappetizing word, but it gets real strong. So you can kind of choose how strong you want it. If you don't want it quite so strong, you can mix it up a little bit, get it to drain through more quickly. You do kind of got to use a lot of coffee with this thing, though. That's the only downside is, to make this one cup of coffee, I'm probably using a quarter or a third as much as I would to make a whole, like, 12-cup pot. Which, now that I think about it, probably isn't actually that much more than it would be in a normal coffee maker. But a little more. It's like you need to bring more coffee than you think you need to bring if you're a pretty heavy coffee drinker, which I am. But we're pretty good here. Set this off to the side. We'll have some coffee snow cones later. It's getting dark. Sun's probably gone down. I don't know. The sun's already down. I don't know how long ago it went down. You can't see anything from here with the cloud cover, but let's give this a try. Ooh, perfect. Very strong. Nice and warm. It cooled off enough. I let the water cool off just enough before I poured it in here. It's not scalding hot. Now, this might catch some people off guard, but I got this nice Stanley vacuum insulated mug. Well, when I got it, like, from the factory, it wasn't sealed. It wasn't vacuum sealed. And I got a bunch of them. You know, it's not like a problem I've ever heard of, but it was just, like, defective. But it's honestly like one of my favorite mugs now, because you put the coffee in it and it like cools off and you can just drink it. It's not like it gets cold right away. Like, having the air gap in there, still provides some insulation. If I was going to be out here all day, I would have brought a different mug. I would have brought one that actually keeps it warm, but to just be able to, like, drink it, honestly, the broken Stanley mug is kind of the way to go. Yeah, pretty much out of water. Now, it's too bad it's getting dark. Wish I had been able to get out here a little sooner. That's the way it goes. One of my favorite things to do, though, when I'm relaxing in the woods is basically just this. Acting like a weirdo sitting out here in the dark in the woods. But I got my cup of coffee. Got a flask. And then, bottle of gasoline in case you really want to mix her up. But here's how you complete the old school outdoorsman experience. You break out your pipe. I don't know if I'm supposed to do this on YouTube or not. Don't really care. You know, I feel like every outdoorsman should have a pipe too. And that's not just necessarily me saying it. So I'm from Minnesota, and I spent a good chunk of my life up in northern Minnesota, where like the voyageurs were a real popular group of people. Maybe that's not the right way to put it, but historically, so your voyageurs were fur traders, basically, and they would move, they would trade, with the Native Americans, and move furs from out west, and they'd shuttle them back all the way across the North American continent in canoes. So that was how all of the fur got transported to like the East Coast back in the day. And it's one of the main reasons that actually at least the northern part of the United States was opened up at all to settlers, is because of the fur trade and fur traders going through that area. And you could only do that in canoes. And that includes Canada as well. Mainly Canada, you could only traverse Canada in canoes, at least central and eastern. I've never been there, but I've seen pictures of the place. I kind of know what the globe looks like, and yeah, out west, western Minnesota, like south to middle, up the way, up the United States, you could ride horses. That's where you get all your cowboys and everything going west, but not up in northern part of the United States or Canada. It's the forests are just too thick. It's all these thick evergreen forests, boggy and stuff like that. You got to traverse it in canoes. So with Minnesota being kind of the canoeing capital of the world, the voyageurs were a real kind of idolized group of people in history. But they would always smoke pipes. That was one of the things. All of them smoked pipes, and they'd take pipe breaks throughout the day to kind of recharge. And I mean, those guys were working hard. You hear stories about how much weight they'd move and how much they'd paddle, and when they'd be on portages. I think Grand Portage in northern Minnesota was like some ridiculous number, like 36 miles with 180 pounds or something just like inhumanly hard to do. So those guys worked hard, but their secret was you stop to take a pipe break every now and then, get you feeling good. I've done that. You're out like hiking or just busting your ass, and the environment, the weather is just kicking your ass, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna pull over. I'm gonna take a pipe break for a second, and man, it gets you feeling like a new man. It's really incredible. So, when you light a pipe, you get it packed, and then you light it once, and you let it go out. But that first light, what it does is the tobacco swells up when it gets hit by the heat. So you hit it once, you light it once, and the tobacco kind of puffs up, and then you can tamp it down, and then it's ready to go. And then you light it again, and you're good to go. And then here's the trick. You get these small, I know you guys probably can't even see anything on the video anymore. I don't know if I'll be able to lighten it up on the computer, but you get these real small book of matches, or box of matches, and you hold them in between your pointer finger and your middle finger, and then you hold the pipe with your bottom two fingers, and then you can strike the match and keep everything out of the wind. And then you're going. And then if you have a metal tamper, you got to hold it in your hand and put it up against your fingers to warm it up a little bit so it doesn't take too much heat away from the ember. I like whittling a wooden tamper. It's part of the experience where, if you're smoking cigarettes, right, you burn one of those in 10 seconds and that's that. But a pipe's more of like an experience. You're not just hopefully doing it for the sake of being addicted to it. You're hopefully just doing it once in a while to relax, which is what I like to do. And part of like the I don't know what the right word is. Part of the ceremony. Part of the ceremony to it is, you know, you find a nice stick, you kind of whittle it down, get a nice tamper set up. It just helps you relax into it before you start. And then, if you're fortunate, you get yourself a nice cup of coffee that you just brewed. Hopefully you remember to pack your flask with some of your favorite fire water. And you just get to hang out, take in the scenery. And being out here, man, this is one of the most beautiful days I've been in the woods in a while. And unfortunately, the sun's going down. It's probably going to be hard to see through the camera, but it's still pretty bright out here now. I mean, it's at least bright enough for me to see. And I try to not use flashlights until they're absolutely necessary. I like to let my eyes adjust as much as possible, and if I'm really struggling, I'll use a flashlight. Or if I'm hiking, like once it's real dark, you know, where dark's usually about 30 minutes after sundown, but you can usually walk for 45 or so minutes before you really need to break out that flashlight. Because, you know, you don't want to break an ankle or something like that, and it's all situationally dependent. I guess if you're interested in getting a pipe, which I think if you're an outdoorsman, a woodsman, I think you should add that to your kit. It's something that's nice and relaxing to do once in a while, and it's a totally different experience than like cigarettes or cigars. It's a real mellow smoke where like cigarettes kind of burn your throat, and yeah, I've smoked a lot of cigars, and honestly, I don't like most of them. There's only a handful that I really enjoyed. But pipes, it's like a real mellow smoke, and most of the tobacco is very aromatic. So if there's other people around you that aren't smokers, they never complain about the aromatic pipe tobacco. It actually smells really good. It's when you're smelling it, it's all of that stuff is actually a really pleasant smell. It's not like cigarettes or cigars that just stink to everyone else. And you get the nice aromatic tobacco, and it's real light, and it doesn't, it's not coarse, you know, it's not burning your throat or your lungs or anything, because pipes, you don't really inhale them. You just kind of breathe them into your mouth a little bit and taste them, and you can breathe them in a little bit if that's, you know, your prerogative, but it's a lot mellower. If you were ever turned off by something else, you know, the pipes are a little nicer to smoke. And I feel like, you know, you should enjoy it, right? It shouldn't be something that you're like, oh, I gotta force this down. If you're forcing it down, then don't do it, you know? It's all about being able to enjoy it and relax and kick back in the woods. And then you go to a pipe shop or a good tobacco shop, and get you some real pipe tobacco. You know, you can get like gas station pipe tobacco, which is what I got here. This, you know, just cheap gas. I ran out of my good stuff, so this is what I got now. It's fine, but like if you go to an actual tobacconist and get some, you know, get an ounce of really good tobacco, it'll last you for a while and it'll be really enjoyable. And it's like, thinking back, you know, a lot of the fond memories I have of just kicking back and relaxing in the woods, it's been smoking pipes with my buddies, or hell, I've met people on the trail. Did a 70 mile hike in the on the Appalachian Trail maybe a month ago or so, with one of my buddies that I canoed the Mississippi with. A couple of years ago, I canoed the entire, it's probably 3 now, I canoed the entire Mississippi River with one of my friends from college. And you know, we did the Voyageur thing. We brought our pipes with, and you know, in the evening, once in a while, we might break them out, or maybe once in a while in the morning. You know, we figure we're camped in a beautiful spot. We're gonna sit here, drink some coffee, smoke our pipes before we get started. And there's just something about it. Like it's just such a nice, relaxing way to start your day or end your day. You know. Or if you're on the trail and you find a nice, beautiful spot to pull over and just take a break for an hour, I mean, you can't beat it. But going back to the Appalachian Trail thing, we ran into a couple guys. We're absolutely busting our asses, carrying way too heavy packs. My pack started at 80 pounds, which is fine because I've carried a lot of weight before. And I was kind of doing that to get in shape too. But yeah, we pulled over to take a break, and a couple other guys came down the trail, and one of them broke out a pipe. They both broke out pipes, so we broke ours out, and we just hung out and shot the shit for, I don't know, an hour or two. And that was one of the things that made the trip, was just getting to know some new people like that. So it's one of those things it's real enjoyable. Once in a while, it's a nice, relaxing experience. And then you couple it, like a cup of coffee like I got here, and I mean, you can't beat it. If I wasn't out here, this was kind of a last minute decision to come out here. Now I'm looking at the camera screen, it's totally black, so if you're still watching this video, man, good for you guys. But all I was going to be doing was sitting at home stressing out about getting this or that done, and I was like, man, screw it, I got an hour of daylight left, I'm going to get out in the woods and hang out for a minute. And you don't got to go very far to do this. Like, I'm just in the woods behind my house, you know? You can always find a local spot, and even if you live in the middle of the cities, you know, a lot of times you can find kind of natural areas without having to drive super far. Now, you might not be way back out in the woods, but you find a little natural spot, you know, pond, some trees here or there, and whatever, pull your car over and just take a break there. You can always find those spots. It just takes a lot of looking. And if you're fortunate to live out in the country like I do, or something like that, then then the possibilities are endless. Yeah, if you do end up getting a pipe, you don't need to spend $1 million. You can buy some. I mean, the sky's the limit on how much you spend, because pipes are kind of like watches, where part of the reason you wear a nice watch, which I really appreciate, nice watches, it's like a piece of art. You know, it's like all watches tell time, but nice watches, you know, you're wearing a piece of artwork that somebody, you know, poured their heart and soul in to make. Same thing with pipes. You can get real nice pipes, and I had a real nice pipe. I actually bought it on my Mississippi trip, and unfortunately that is no longer with me. It kind of breaks my heart, because eventually they kind of turn into some of your prized possessions, mainly because of, like, you know, all the memories of just being able to hang out with them, and especially if a couple of your buddies have them, just the camaraderie of hanging out. But you don't need to spend $1 million. You know, you get something nice that's 40, 50 bucks, that'll get the job done. And I wouldn't get a super cheap wood one. Definitely don't get like a metal one, or a one with a metal bowl in it, like for, you know, anything other than tobacco. Obviously, you want like a real tobacco pipe. If you're getting into it, actually, the corncob pipes smoke really well. Those are cheap, you know, you get them for 15 bucks or something like that. And they're a good place to start. But yeah, you get a corncob pipe and half an ounce of tobacco, you're in it for 20, 25 bucks, and give it a shot. I'd show you, but you wouldn't be able to see it anyways. You can get these little wind caps. They're about the size of a quarter. They got some holes drilled in them, and they have a couple little tines on them that you put on top of your pipe. If it's windy, because the wind will blow your pipe out, it'll screw it up, so you kind of got to hold it in your hand and protect it, or you put one of those wind caps on it. And that's a good outdoors thing to have, is some of those pipe wind caps. You know, they're cheap. Get them for $5 or something. And if you use those, you don't want to cram them all the way down onto your pipe. You maybe leave them like a 1/16 of an inch off the top of the bowl or something to get a little more air in there, because otherwise your tobacco just turns into charcoal. But that's something you can add to your kit if if you're using it outdoors. Well, I don't know if I got a whole lot more to say. You know, I'm just out here running my mouth, but yeah, just kind of talking about whatever comes to mind. And it's getting pretty dark. I can hardly see anything, and the video is going to be black at this point, so if you're still hanging out, I appreciate it. I'd like to do some more of these videos where it's just chilling in the woods, because this is fun, and just hanging out by yourself. I don't really love hanging out by myself all that much. I do it all the time, but it's a lot more fun to be out in the woods with someone and kind of talking to the camera. Actually, I've never done this before, but this is kind of nice. Like it makes me feel like I'm hanging out with somebody, which I am. Whoever's watching this video, you know, we get to share the experience together, which is awesome. And it's this is actually nicer for me to be out here talking to you through the camera than it would be just me being out here sitting by myself. So I think that about does it, but glad you could come along on this trip with me. So until next time.